Hi viewers, I'm Jared from GamerSlice, and this video is a little bit late considering, well, actually about a couple weeks late considering the Overwatch beta ended a while ago, but I figured I might as well put this video out by the time the game launches, and the game released today. So, but I wasn't in too much of a hurry considering I did put out kind of like a live stream first impressions combo, but I don't think I did too well on sharing my impressions in that, as I stated in that video. So I decided to make this video afterwards. So first off, Overwatch is not a MOBA. Some people try to say it's a MOBA, or especially people like to make the comparison between Overwatch and Battleborn, and I definitely do see some comparable areas of the game in there. To some extent, the aesthetic, but not really. But there's a lot of things in there. But at its core, Overwatch is not really anything like Battleborn, except for that it's multiplayer and it is in an arena. But if you were to take the definition of a MOBA as a multiplayer online battle arena, well, pretty much any multiplayer game, including your Call of Duty games, could do that. Except for, Call of Duty would qualify as a MOBA, except for the fact that MOBAs normally are only multiplayer. They don't have like a single player aspect. But still, MOBAs, really the way we would define them is not just based on that terminology. They also entail a couple other things, such as having the usually minions in the battle you have to escort. You level up during the match and are able to get modifications to your current skills or purchase new skills or upgrades. So that's some of the characteristics of the MOBA. Overwatch has none of that, though. It does have unique abilities to each character, and the characters are they're presets. You don't customize them really. You can customize the appearance, but that's pretty much it. So it has stuff, it's kind of like a MOBA in that aspect, that each character is very unique. But other than that, there's not a whole lot of similarities between other MOBAs. And well, I shouldn't even say that because it's not a MOBA. But it is what a lot of people would like to call a hero, or as I would call it, just an arena shooter. So a hero or arena shooter with objective-based game modes and gameplay in general. Now, one of the cool things about Overwatch is it's got way more class synergy than pretty much any other game I've seen. I mentioned Battleborn that has pretty good class synergy, but Overwatch, I think, excels and does this to a greater degree than usual. At least for any like first-person comparable games. Some other MOBAs do this pretty well too, but Overwatch has a tremendous amount of class synergy, especially like the way some of the tank characters work with some of the higher damage characters, or especially the way the support characters are able to just kind of really carry, not really carry the whole team, but they can, a good support player, or having no support player at all versus having a support player, can make the difference between a good team and a bad team. Now, there are 21 characters in Overwatch across 4 different classes. There's offensive characters, defensive characters, tank characters, and support characters. But there's only 4 of the support characters, but they're vastly different, and I don't know the breakdown of the other ones, but the, offensive, tank, and defense are pretty well balanced. But the neat thing is, within each one of those classes, there's actually quite a bit of variety. No two characters, I would say, really play alike. And if I had to pick a class that plays closest, like each character within the class plays closest to each other, I don't think I could pick one because they're just that diverse. And all these characters have great personality to them, especially as it's expressed in some of the trailers, the animated shorts that they have released up to the game's release date. And the customization complements that too, even though there's very little customization, as far as like there's no performance customization, but you can customize how your character looks and the outfits, which you get through these kind of like loot boxes, which you acquire just from leveling up. You get one and you open it and you get 4 random items. Of which you could get skins, you could get victory poses, which are really nice. They play into like the character's personality, and also taunts, which play into the character's personality as well. And then you can also get sprays, and I'm not really sure what the sprays do though. I never figured that out while playing the game. Probably should have researched it beforehand, but from what I can tell, either way, they probably don't have a significant effect in the game at all. In fact, they are probably, out of all those customization options, they're probably the least significant of the bunch. Through those loot boxes, I should also mention that you can get a premium type of currency like Overwatch points, which allow you to unlock different victory posters or stuff if you want one in particular. But I believe there's a pretty good chance when that I haven't, I don't have the full game, so I don't really know how they're handling this, but I'm assuming there's some sort of microtransaction system where you can buy those as well. And moving on from that, we have the aesthetic of Overwatch, which I actually like quite a bit. It's not as I don't know how you would say like a game like Battleborn, what type of an art style that is. It wouldn't be cell shaded, but it would, it's kind of low texture, kind of comic book-esque in a way, kind of cartoonish looking. Overwatch does have a kind of cartoonish art style, but it is still very detailed. But it does have cartoonish qualities to it. There are two other really unique things about Overwatch that stood out to me, and a lot of other games that are comparable to Overwatch don't usually have this. For one, you can switch characters during the game. You don't have, like, as I said, a lot of people compare this to MOBA. It's not a MOBA, but it's, I'd say that's the closest thing to compare it to, because you're not really probably going to compare it to anything like Call of Duty or even like the recently released Doom. You're not really going to compare it to that. You're more likely to compare it to a MOBA because it's more similar to those in many ways, mainly because of the objective focus. But you're not stuck into picking one character at the beginning of the match and then you can't change it. You can switch characters at any time as long as you're back at your base, and this can make the difference between winning or losing the match sometime. The nice thing about this too is when you're at the character select screen, the game will actually give you tips and tell you, if your team, if you need more support characters, or if you need, you're too low damage, so you need more offensive, or if you don't have a tank character. It kind of gives you some very general, but also kind of just helpful tips. It's almost more of just like a helpful UI element that helps you be able to quickly balance your team and figure out where more support in a different type of category is needed very quickly. So this is a very intuitive way of doing it, and I think it's quite helpful. Now, in a sense, you could also say this is similar to loadouts, like in a shooter that has, or third-person, first-person shooter, whatever, that has loadouts, and you can switch between the loadouts within the middle of the game. Yeah, that is true, but just as I said, in the games that you would most compare, be most comparable to Overwatch, they don't have that. And besides Overwatch, you don't actually have to like die and respawn in order to have your loadout. You can just go back to the base if you need to and switch out at any time. The second of the last two things that I found really unique is there is a highlights reel, built-in highlights reel within Overwatch. And when the game picks up on something that you did that's impressive, to my knowledge, it doesn't do it every match. But if you do really good in a match and there's like a important play that you made, it will automatically save highlights in there that you can like tap into. I think they store them on temporarily just on the system. I don't think it's a cloud thing, although it does have to load up. But in the beta, at least, when you exit the game, they're kind of erased. But you can go back and watch some little highlight moments, which I found was quite cool. And of course, at the end, they also showcase the play of the game, which has a little animation for the character, a little intro for the character, depending on what you've customized it to be, and then it shows the play of the game. And that's always nice to be at the end of the match to do something really cool and then have yours selected as the one to show off. And then of course there's a voting system at the end of every match with different high accolades, or people that did impressive feats, and then you get to vote on them. And I think it's based maybe like XP, or maybe it's just something else in statistics. I'm not really sure, but you can vote on that, and then if you get so many likes, it like I think gives you a reward. However, going back to the highlights thing though, I do think they need to get rid of some of like the info feed, kind of like where you might normally see kill feeds and stuff. Well, it's got like stuff, somebody switched to this character, somebody just joined the game. when you're viewing the highlights back, it actually has that stuff still on the screen when you view it. So I think during that, if they haven't already taken care of it, they need to, patch that out so it just looks all nice and dressed up. Because otherwise, that's kind of annoying seeing that off to the side. Now let's talk about some of the maps and modes. There's a good selection of maps. I think they're all the level design is actually quite good, and there's two different types of game modes, and I think both game modes are have certain maps I think are designed around specific game modes. There's an escort game mode, and there is a capture the point, kind of like King of the Hill mode. Which those are the two modes in the beta, and I'm not sure if there's more in the full game. I would certainly hope there would be. But the map selection, at least, that was in the open beta, that's a good selection of maps. I would estimate there's at least 9 or 10 maps though, so I think that's good for starting. And if the full game has more maps, then that's they definitely have that area covered. But certain maps are definitely designed more for like the escorts because they're long. They have like long roads, and there are other maps that are clearly designed for the capture thing. And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think those two ever actually merge together. I think they do have maps designed specifically for each one. And there are different stages, like because for the capture objectives, there's different stages of the map. So yeah, come to think of it, there's no maps that you use for an escort mission that you also use on the King of the Hill mission. They're all unique per game mode. So I like that. But per game mode, I would say there's probably at least about 5 to 6 maps per game mode. Now, I also appreciate the in-depth statistics in Overwatch. It has, first of all, obviously general stuff like how many hours you've played, what's your win percentage, but it has kill death ratio. It has different statistics for each character. Time capturing the objective, healing done with this character, just all sorts of stuff. Time played as offensive, time played as defensive, maybe turrets built, probably in the realm of like over a dozen, maybe more like 20 different categories of statistics. So that is very nice. Now, finally, to wrap things up, I would like to talk about some maybe character-specific issues that I saw in the game. And for the most part, the characters seem well-balanced, well-rounded. I didn't have many complaints. But there are a couple characters that I don't think it's absolutely necessary to change them, but some of them I think could maybe use a little bit of improvement from where I'm coming from. First of all, there is in one of the tips, as I said, it gives you tips when you enter the match. It'll tell you many times if you don't play as Torbjorn, which is one of the characters in the game. He's like a short dwarf kind of guy, but he's a builder, and he builds turrets and stuff like that, and he can also throw down shield packs for enemies if you collect enough gears, which you collect gears by just walking over where enemies were killed, and you can collect the gears. Now, he's the only builder in the game is the thing. So I think it would probably be a good idea to have another builder, but it doesn't look like they're going to put him in there. And Torbjorn, I think, is a good character. He's actually fairly well-rounded, but still, it would be nice to have a little more diversity in that category. And he is this, he's a defense character. Now, Roadhog, he's one of the tank characters. He is the toughest character in the game with 600 health points, but he's got one of his abilities is like this elixir of vitality that he drinks, and I think it replenishes somewhere between like around 200 and 250 health. So that's quite a bit. Like he can just using that once, you can replenish basically half your health with that. So I think for him, that perk needs to be tweaked a bit, because when I played as him, I could literally go the entire match without dying, or maybe only die like once or twice if the whole team got on me. But he's very tough. He's very deadly at close range, and he even has his chain ability as a second ability that he can reel you in with and get you at close range, and you can one shot like most of the weaker characters. So I think for that perk, that vitality perk, for instance, it needs to either have a longer cooldown or it needs to have a lesser effect, like maybe replenish 150 health points or something like that. Then there's Genji. He's one of the offensive characters. His melee special ability, it seemed actually underpowered. it just seemed like sometimes, mainly I did like Zarya or whatever, the girl, the big tough. She's the only girl who's a tank character. By pure coincidence, I happened to be going after her when I used it most of the time, and she always had a shield thing on her health bar. But even on some of the other characters, I feel like unless you were going after one of the weak characters, it took too many hits. And keep in mind, this isn't just a normal ability or just like a standard attack. This is actually the character's like unique ability that you have to charge up. It just seemed a little underpowered, or like it had not enough reach as well. Then there's Reinhardt. He's one of the most well, maybe not the most iconic tank character. I say Winston's probably the most iconic tank character, but Reinhardt's one of the very popular ones. There's no way to miss him because he's got the big shield that can block damage. You know, if he's in battle, Reinhardt. If you're playing as him, you're often throwing that up. Everybody can tell when Reinhardt's in the battle. Maybe it's just me, but I had some difficulty playing as him a lot of the times. But I seem to die pretty easily as him, even though he's a tank hero and he's got 500 health points. Maybe it's just because everybody was targeting me, and you know he's a tank character, so he's got a bigger hitbox. But he just seemed like I just went down a little too quick with him. And the melee also seemed to maybe not do enough damage, or possibly had lesser range. I mean, than it should have. Maybe it did have the right amount of range, but it just, when swinging it, it doesn't look like the hammer's going out as far. So maybe just a couple visual changes there might aid in making the character seem like he plays better. Because for me, he didn't. I don't know. I mean, I can do pretty good as him, but and also throwing up the shield. That's one of the main strategies. I think Reinhardt, he's very much a pusher character. He's gonna hold the line if you're getting pushed back, and he's gonna, you know, be up with your forces while you're advancing, and you get everybody behind them, and they're just throwing, you know, lead at the other characters as much as possible on the enemy team. But so many times people don't seem to actually get behind it when you need them to. And then finally Hanzo. Hanzo was one of the most annoying characters to me. He has the guy with the bow. Um, but I'm not really sure how to feel about him when I play as him. Like he's pretty powerful, but it was just I got killed by him a lot, and it was kind of annoying. The thing that bothered me most though was sometimes his dragon, because you would get in, you'd just be like kind of off to the sidelines in the dragon, or you'll walk through the dragon's tail just barely, and it can still kill you. So maybe if the dragon special ability did less damage during that time, or as you were closer into it, it did significantly more damage. I think it already does that, but just maybe tone down, make it take more time to do that amount of damage, or just slightly less damage. But, you know, I don't think any of these are major. I think the game plays very well. I enjoyed my time with the beta. It was really fun, and I would encourage you guys, if this is your type of game and you are willing to pay $60 for a purely multiplayer-focused, objective-based game, then have at it. I think the game is great. But as for me, I'm definitely going to be waiting for a price drop, and I'm going to be picking it up on PC. So that's my impressions on it. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Be sure to stay tuned on our channel for other videos coming up. I got an Uncharted 4 review coming up. I beat it like not last Sunday. I beat it over a week ago. But I've been kind of busy, so I haven't had too much time to work on it. But that should be coming up definitely before the end of this month. And, of course, we're going to have the podcast coming up, and we'll talk maybe about our plans for E3 and everything. So thank you guys for watching. Be sure to check out other videos on the channel. And if you like what you see here, don't be a stranger and subscribe. So thank you guys for watching. And until next time, we hope to see you guys in the next video.